Welcome to Real Estate Real World, where we talk to the movers, shakers, and leaders that are getting it done right now in the real estate industry and beyond. I'm your host, Marguerite Crespillo, and I started this podcast simply dedicated to calling people about what's really happening in this crazy roller coaster ride of real estate. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and stay up to date on the newest stuff by adding yourself to the list at www.realestaterealworld.com. Now, let's dive into the world of real estate. Hello, everybody. It's Marguerite Crespillo, and welcome to another fabulous episode of Real Estate Real World, where we get to talk to all the cool people. Today is a very special guest. I'm going to read her bio real quick, and then I'm going to add a little personal information in. So, Courtney Clayton Folkner's journey into video began in high school, where she first discovered her love for creating fun and expressive content. What started out as a hobby quickly turned into a passion by the age of 19. With a determination to master the art of video, she immersed herself in learning film techniques while vlogging and working at a local coffee shop to fund her dream equipment. Courtney's dedication led her to a role in real estate, video, and social media, and eventually to documenting weddings. Today, as the owner and videographer of Courtney Clayton Videography, she combines her expertise in video production with her marketing skills to craft compelling content across various platforms, helping clients tell their stories and achieve their business goals. So welcome, the beautiful Courtney.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. I want to tell my audience a funny little story. So I have known your mother and your auntie, your Aunt Kathy, since I was about 14 years old. Your Aunt Kathy and I were best friends for many years. And sadly, she passed away a few weeks ago. And so I ran into you at the memorial service and there with the family. And we started chit-chatting, and I've been following you for a while on social media because your mom was like, you got to follow my daughter. She's doing all this cool stuff. And so there's a little generational gap, right? But it's been really fun to watch your journey and see what you've done. And now the coolest part is you're doing a lot of real estate photography, but you're focused on luxury and high-end homes, right?
Yes, exactly that. I try to do just the luxury. That's my bread and butter. I love luxury homes.
So tell me a little bit about first of all, I created some confusion when we were off stage when I kept saying photographer, and you're like, no, I'm a videographer, because I don't totally understand it and get it. I'm sure there's people in our audience who are a little ignorant like me. So help me understand the difference when you want to focus just on videography.
Okay, so this has been a fun transition. I would say the last 10 years. Obviously, beforehand, we were all photography. We want just photography stuff. The photos is what it is. And you're putting those on Zillow and Facebook. And then the new wave became video. So that's what I do is videography. And that is basically the moving pictures. It has the audio, you have the drone footage, the storytelling. And video, in my opinion, is more compelling because of that storytelling aspect. You can really get across so many different points in selling aspects more so than video. You know how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words? I like to joke around how many words is like a video worth, because it's just thousands and thousands of pictures over the course of a minute or two.
And what I love that you said and you highlighted is that it really gets to tell the story. And the videos that I love the most are when there is some sort of a compelling story, right? Where you can feel there's something going on or there's a story to tell, instead of just the average like walk through and take a picture and, oh, okay, there's a picture. Because it seems like what's happened a lot too, I know that we've been guilty of doing this on my team, is we just take all the pictures and then put them into a video. And it's not quite the same. It's like you're seeing kind of these pictures of like walking into a room, but not really walking into a room, right?
And there's nothing wrong with photos. There's a place for them and they still sell. But people really want to imagine their own life there. So having any kind of person there, especially the realtor, If their own voice or their body themselves are in the video and they're talking, I just feel like that's more likely to sell because you're able to connect. People buy from people, they don't buy from brands. So seeing a face and feeling that story is really what's going to help sell and build your business long term.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much because I've said for years that brand only matters when you have nothing else, right? People
Mm-hmm.
connect to people. And I've never heard that more true in when you're looking at pictures and video and all of that to create that story. So let me ask you this. What has so far been your favorite house to record? And why was it so special?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember one in particular?
I have a lot of good houses. I think one of my favorite ones was one I did earlier this year. It was in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida, and it's right on this little intercoastal, but also just a few blocks from the beach. So you take the drone up and you could see both of those
Wow.
in the shot. But the house was just magnificent. It's a great side of town. It was like a 6,000 square foot house, but you would have never thought that because it's one story. Everything was just absolutely perfect. The owner had immaculate taste in furniture and she designed it herself. It was so incredible.
Wow. So let's go back a bit. Let's track a little bit. And you started in high school and then you ended up getting into the real estate world. How did that transition happen?
Super funny. So, when I first started video, I started by vlogging just because I had no mentor. I had nobody to teach me. I just needed to dive right in and start learning. So, I started making these vlogs. I'm honestly really embarrassed of them now. They're all private. But a realtor found my vlogs and he really liked it, and he liked my storytelling that I had in my vlogs, even though it was just absolutely no skill at that point in time. And so he hired me onto his team, and I was so excited about this because at the time I was still a barista. So I got to quit the barista job and actually do video as a job during college. And that's really when I dove into real estate. I learned all about real estate, all the different angles, and we were making not only listing videos, but we were doing monthly market stat videos, branding content on communities, content around our city in Northeast Florida. So I really learned so much about real estate from those first 2 years with him.
And so help people in our audience. We have a lot of real estate agents that listen to the show. And what might be some like tips and tricks that they can implement into their business or even in how to find somebody who can do that? Because you're in Florida, I'm in California. I'm like, how can I get this girl out here for a little bit to tell some stories? But I'm fascinated a little bit by the whole story making, you how that came about and how that helps you when you're putting these videos together.
As for realtors, the only advice I would have is don't be afraid to invest in a videographer and photographer because there's still a lot of realtors today who only want to do photo or only want to do the cell phone content. But I'm telling you, if you find a good videographer that knows how to help you with the script and how to help you strategize where to put those videos, when to put them, and how to execute it fully so where it's actually a branding video, not just a video of a house, it's going to take you so much farther than you think, especially if you're doing it consistently.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. The thing is, and I'm sure my virtual assistant, Mark, who helps with this, he's always, get me some video. And there's a little bit of a generational thing, right? Like I'm not so comfortable all the time. Although I can do this, I can interview people all day long. But just going out and like recording myself, I'm
It's uncomfortable.
self-conscious and
Yeah.
it's uncomfortable and awkward. And then I'm trying to figure out how to edit it and how to like feel everybody's doing filters. And so I was watching some training with a gal named Gogo who does an amazing job on social media. And she showed how to do these filters in Instagram. I go, okay, that part's cool, but how do I do like just a filter on my phone? There's all these like technical parts that I think we get a bit overwhelmed with. So I guess maybe how do people get past? I guess you just have to do it, right?
Yeah. So if you're filming on your phone, there should be no pressure to it. Think of it more as how you post on your everyday Facebook or whatever platform you use. That's what people want to see. They want to get to know you in your everyday life or just your personality, even if you're not showing your personal life. because again, people sell to people, not brands. So video really helps sell that. When it comes to professional videos, I've seen a lot of my clients feel the pressure being on the front end of the camera, especially like when you have to sound knowledgeable and it is a lot of pressure. That's really how you determine if you've got a good videographer or not, because they would help you with the script. They'll probably have a teleprompter for you to read off of so you don't have to memorize everything. And they'll help you feel comfortable in front of the camera. But again, it just takes practice and time, and you just keep going and you learn as you go. That's how everybody else does it.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true. And so with this direction you're going into luxury stuff, are you only doing in your area or are you traveling? What does that look like for you?
Definitely open to traveling. So far, I've just been doing Northeast Florida for real estate, but with all my niches, events, weddings, and real estate, I do travel. So I travel more so for the other two. Real estate, so far, it's just been Northeast Florida.
Right. And it seems like you've done some traveling around the world too, have you not? Or has that been more for personal
Yeah,
reasons?
yes, all kinds of stuff. So I've done weddings all across the US and Puerto Rico. And then I worked with a big brand that is a travel agency. So I did videos in Greece, Iceland, Bali, went to Egypt last year and did some photos and videos for them. So I've done all kinds of fun places.
Wow, what a life
Super
you've
fun.
been blessed with, huh? So when you are choosing, when you're starting to record a home, what are some of the tips and tricks that you give to maybe the real estate agent to prep for that home? How do you make sure that the home is really ready and suitable for doing video and creating a story?
Beforehand, it's going to be really similar to how you stage your home. Basically, you're going to want to have it ready like you're just about to put it on the market. Same thing you would do for photos. You want to have it staged. You want to not have the ugly elliptical out in the center of the living room, things like that. The dog cage out in the middle of the house. There's small things like that that you can move out when we come to shoot. But for the most part, you want to make sure you have those put away. Garbage cans put away. If you have to have any drone clearances, this is something nobody thinks about. You have to pay attention to where your house is. If it's close to an airport or any kind of hospital or helipad, make sure you have a knowledgeable videographer that knows to get waivers for those airspaces, because you don't want to show up on shooting day promising drone footage and you can't even shoot it.
I didn't even know that. That's actually a
Mhm.
tip wasn't even familiar with.
Yeah.
Either my guys are already taking care of it or it's never come up.
It could be easier out where you live, because in my city, there's so much military here. We have
Mhm.
several naval air stations and military stations, so it's just really strict. We have to pay attention to where we're at.
That's really cool. You mentioned events earlier. So d have you gone and recorded at specific events and recorded
Yes.
it? Or what about even what I'm thinking of is because 'cause I'm gonna be in Miami the end of October for EXPCon, for the EXPCon event. How far are you from Miami?
About 5 hours.
Oh, you're a little ways away. Because I was thinking I see a lot of these influencers at the events, and they seem to have people, like, following them around with
Yeah.
cameras. Is
Yeah.
that the kind of stuff you do?
Yeah. That's a good amount of what I do. So I just do event videography in general. So I actually still work with him. I work with a guy named Matt Sutter. He was actually one of the original agents with Keller Williams, good friends of Gary Keller.
Mhm.
And he's branching off to only doing business coaching now. And so he shoots a lot of conferences. I've shot many of his, and we do a lot of branding content for him. We've gone to Michigan. We've done lots of in Orlando and Jacksonville. And then I've also done like music festivals.
Oh, my son both my boys are into music. My one son just got back from Lost Lands in
Yeah,
Ohio.
I've been all the content from Lost Lands.
Yeah, he just got back from that, and he's, I think, still sleeping, like, the last 4 days.
Oh, I bet. He's
And then my
lifting.
other son, John, is playing in a festival tonight, I think, in somewhere down in Los Angeles area. I think it's called Same or something. I don't know what it is. I'm a little out of touch with that.
Is it a palm tree one? I saw something about a palm tree festival. I don't know if that's it.
I think so. He's performing at this one, so that one's pretty cool. He's
That'll be
gonna actually
fun.
be I think he's on one of the side stages. But at these different festivals, so you've recorded some of those too, more as like, the videographer or more there as a guest?
Yes, so as a videographer, so I have some friends that work with many of the artists at your son's house, so they probably hire a photo and video team. That, and I have a lot of friends that do that, so I'll come and help them film and go out and shoot at these festivals. It's really fun. I've only done it a
Yeah.
few times, but I really like it.
That's really cool. So tell us a little bit about what you're working on now. You did mention that you are doing luxury homes and targeting that arena. What else are you doing, or is that really becoming your main focus right now?
That's becoming my main focus with real estate. I just want to work with high end brands and do really quality work for a select amount of agents versus work for the masses and be burnt out or ship my stuff off to editors
Yeah.
and do tons of them. I want to do really quality personal work that makes them stand out.
So there is a few parts to this as well, and I'm wanting to understand a little bit more because you mentioned a few times about the storytelling, and how do you really come up with the story that surrounds either these luxury homes that you're doing or the types of events? If you were to come and record me at an event, you would create something that tells a story, or if I had you at a high-end luxury listing, same thing, you're creating a story around that, and how do you do that?
It really depends what you're looking for. There's a lot of different looks that you can go for, and different agents want different things. Sometimes they want a professional voiceover by somebody who sounds like a commercial. And so I'll hire a voiceover artist, but I'll write the script. And really, what we're doing is writing something similar to what you put on the Zillow description, where you're really bringing that place to life in writing, talking about, you can watch the sunsets on the river here every night if you live here. Imagine having parties in this kitchen. It's amazing. Stuff like that. And then you have other agents who actually want to be in it, which I highly recommend this because, again, people sell to people. And so, what we'll do is actually have them walk through it and point out some of their favorite things or fun features, and also point out this fun stuff that we would normally point out in a voiceover. The other way we would do it is personal branding. So it would actually have nothing to do with actually being at a house, but maybe a day in the life of a realtor. Or we would actually sit down and talk about their story in their life and how they got started. It can be so many different routes. As for a live event, I would take key moments of things that you said throughout your, let's say it's a 45-minute session, you're on stage, and I would sum it all up into a minute, and we'd be able to share that on social media.
It's funny that you said a day in the life because I've been talking about this for quite a while about doing something like that. And I tell agents all the time, I go, if you were to just pick up a video camera and follow me around all day long, or follow you as an agent around, what would you see that you're doing? And a lot of the
Mhm.
average agents, of course, are not doing a lot. But if you were, I've been doing this for 30 years. If somebody were to follow me from the time I wake up, after I shower, hopefully, and follow me around, you would see all the calls I'm doing and the texts I'm doing and the emails and the communication and the correspondence, all the stuff that I do in a day that probably the average agent doesn't do. And so I've been wanting to do that for a while. I actually have one of my rookie agents who's starting, and I'll follow you around for a day. But I do think that it's really fascinating to do something like that where you're following somebody around, because there's so much that happens that the rest of the world doesn't see. Even if we were to follow you around on a project or on a house that you're doing, there's so
Absolutely.
much detail. And our industry is a little bit under fire right now with all the lawsuits and things that have happened.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there that think all we do is put a sign in the yard. And
Mhm.
then there's a lot of people just probably like you. They're like, how hard is it to record somebody? You're like, but there's the other pieces to it. So you mentioned earlier, and I know we talked about this in person, is that you actually do the majority of the editing on your video. Is that correct?
I do, yes.
Okay. And why
Currently.
do you, because this has come up that a lot of people are outsourcing that editing. And what part of editing makes it so important for you to actually do it?
This is a delicate topic because I don't want to always
Right.
commit to this in case I ever decide to train somebody how to edit. But to be honest, most of the time you get what you pay for. If you are outsourcing somebody who's super cheap, it's going to be a very cheap edit. It's not going to be very good. It's not going to be very thoughtful. And there's a lot of things that, because I've done video for 8 years now, that I've learned just over the course of time. A lot of mistakes that I made that I still see these cheap editors making. And I
Yeah.
just get really picky.
Right.
So,
What are some of the mistakes that you see editors make?
oh
Is
gosh,
there
we get
anything
into
in
film talk.
particular?
I don't know. I don't know that realtors would know what it is, but frame rates, you see that color getting messed up, transitions, poor quality,
Right.
not being able to upload the videos correctly, which is, you'd be surprised, a lot harder than photos.
Yeah. And I know sometimes, and my guy's great. He does the majority of my stuff. But there are times too when I see him like, oh, wait a minute, the picture that starts is like me going, you know, my face. You know, and so sometimes you have to stop and think, okay, what's the starting picture or what is it? And I don't, it's certainly not intentionally. They do a great job. It's more a matter of sometimes there's so much work and you're trying to get caught up and you're just trying to put stuff up there. So
Right.
it's just interesting to me because I don't think I ever really thought of all of the details that go into it so much and how impactful the difference because same thing with me. Like I look back at I've been doing this podcast for over 10 years. So when we first started the podcast, we did it on freeconferencecall.com. So it was only like audio, right? It was free. And
Mm-hmm.
then back then they had Skype. And so we started doing them
Yeah.
on Skype, and Skype was terrible. And half the time it would cut out or the internet was awful. And then we moved to Zoom. And then when my guy now joined me, Mark, he said, we really should use StreamYard, which is, what we use now that gives us a much cleaner recording and things like that. But it's just things you really don't think about. Just like you were saying, your early stuff, you're embarrassed by it.
Yeah. Stuff you learn over time. And there's nothing wrong with hiring editors. And maybe one day I will, but you're most likely not going to get the exact look that you want. And I know for me, people hire me specifically because of the storytelling. And unfortunately, that's not really a skill you can necessarily teach. You either have it or you don't. It's like writing.
Yeah. I would agree. So that kind of leads me into another little topic before we wrap up today is I want to talk a little bit about AI and how is that impacting your industry. I know that it's definitely impacting. We use it a lot and there's a lot of positives to it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
some of the negatives I see is when you talk about writing the story, it's not the same. It's getting better and better. I'm not going to lie,
Yeah.
but it's not the same as if the way it doesn't write the way I write. And so I'm always trying to say, okay, how can we change up the wording a little bit so it sounds a little bit more like me? How
Right.
is that? How are you using that? And how's that impacting what you do?
So far, I love AI. We'll
Yeah.
see how I feel down the line, but I use it to upscale footage, slow footage down. I use it for audio. There's all kinds of fun stuff that you can do with AI. I know that they do have an AI that can cut up a podcast, but I don't personally make podcasts, so I haven't gotten to use that one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Mark's using something like that. I'm not sure. But yesterday he just showed me because you youngins are so smart. Hey, we can create your own little AI so that everything that you put into it is really about you. I was like, what? So they had me on a little training Zoom yesterday and showed me how to create my own chat GPT AI, which I still don't really understand at all. But it was pretty fascinating because and then I realized he obviously uses it a lot to be able to put out the amount of content that he does. And I keep seeing that it's getting better and better. Like when he first started using it, I was like, I don't know about this. We need to write something different. And now the more and more that I see stuff, I see that it's getting better and better. So you're using it a lot too?
I am. I also, some other ways I've used it is voiceovers. They're starting to, instead of doing voice actors, which I hate to put them out of business, but they have a lot of different AI voices with different tones that will sound pretty realistic. It's getting better. And
Yeah.
then they also have new AI where I haven't used this too much, but maybe I will, where you can do talking heads of yourself. You put a script in for whatever content, and it's literally an AI talking head of you with
I've
your voice.
seen that. And
Yes.
again, my assistant Mark has talked about that because I have such a hang up with recording stuff. We've talked about utilizing something like that so that we can actually get stuff done, because I get all caught up in it and then I'm not recording anything. So I know that he's been looking into that a little bit, and we haven't done anything with it yet, but I'm fascinated by it. But you can, I think there's, like people say, is it going to take over? I think there's still that little bit of your soul, or whatever you want to call it, that people can still sense the AIs versus the real stuff. Do you think?
I think they can. I'm hoping and I'm believing in my heart that AI is only going to aid people. It's not going to take away from jobs. Jobs might shift and change, but I think ultimately it's just going to help people. Because I know my parents talked about how people were scared about internet the same
Oh yeah.
way that they're scared about AI now. And internet, I guess in a way, has taken over our lives, but it helps us. And now every business looks different because of it.
100%. And because I'm the age of your parents, I remember when the internet came out, and even email, when people, or cell phones, people are like, oh, I'm not gonna use that dang email. Just call me.
Yeah, or
People,
texting.
now we're texting, right? And
Mhm.
when people say just email me, you're like, wait, like my son probably has 50,000 emails. I don't even think he ever opens his email. I have to call him and tell him, hey, Jake, open your email. So it's definitely a generational shift that we're all adapting to. But the AI
Yeah.
stuff is pretty fascinating. I'm still struggling a little bit with it, but it's pretty fascinating.
It's funny because it feels like nobody was talking about AI even 3 years ago. And now it's just like all anybody can talk about.
And I think too, when it did first come out, everyone thought, oh my gosh, it's going to take over the world and it's going to be robots, whatever the movie was. But it is interesting how it has made some significant changes. So,
In a way, I
well,
think it takes some of the workload off.
I think so. And it helps you, in my opinion, it helps you focus on what you said earlier, is that what is your magic, right? What is your true skill that you're the best at? If you can really delegate the majority of it, then you can focus on your true talent. And it gives you the ability to do that. And that's probably the thing that I love the most about it.
Yeah,
So, well,
definitely.
Courtney, thank you so much for being here today. I know you were a little nervous about this, but you did just fantastic. And I love to see you're beautiful and see your beautiful face, and tell your mom and dad I said hi. I
I
got
will.
some funny stories about your mom. I'm sure we got to tell a few of them at the service, but I adore your mom. She's a great person. I haven't spent much time with your dad, but I adore your mom.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much for having me.
You bet. Thank you again for joining us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on Real Estate Real World, where we get to talk to all the cool people, and including the up and coming ones that are doing some amazing stuff out there. So be sure to follow Courtney on her Instagram and all of her social media. She's doing some really cool stuff, and it's fun to watch. And thank you so much for joining us on Real Estate Real World. Be sure to follow us on social media and drop us a review if you feel so inclined. Thank you again, everybody. Go out and make it an amazing day. Thank you for joining us today on Real Estate Real World, where we talk with masters and leaders in the real estate industry and beyond on how we can raise the bar in our industry. Please subscribe over on iTunes, and while you're there, be sure to give us a review. Your reviews encourage us and help others to find our podcast for show notes and hot topics on what's going on right now in our real estate industry. Also, hop on over to www.realestaterealworld.com and add your name to our email to get early advance notice of upcoming podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and go out there and be a part of the elite masterclass and raising the bar on the real estate industry.